has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast. It's Ferrall on the bench, coast to coast in the biggest way possible. Hanging out the bad seat, the burgundy, the bad apple, the bad attitude. We are live in New York City. Big Apple. Ooh, people dressed in plastic bags, directing traffic, some kind of fashion shake-it-up should do me. Along with the Tutty and Tater King, the Put It With the Golf Guru, the founder of the Aisle Seat podcast and the rights holder of the Sheet of Integrity. It's Carver High this afternoon, ladies. Mafia running it with Luke. I am your father. The rundown on a Misery Monday. Morencia double shot from British Columbia this very hour. Also within the hour, Sean Pendergast from 10 a.m. in Houston. He does mornings. He comes on C2C occasionally. In the final hour, Jerry Palm, the Boilermaker and bracketologist from CBS Sports, and Carver High will hang out with our boy Smiley Kaufman from the Smiley Show on SportsGrid all today on C2C. Canada putting a beating on Finland this afternoon at the Garden in Boston, Mike. A boring game, total domination from the jump. It was 2-0 before they even started sweating.
2-0 before they even started sweating. Happy Monday. President's Day, right?
Oh,
President's Day today. President's Day Monday. First day of an entire week of the kids not having school. That tells you what kind of mood I'm in already. The kids don't have school this entire week, so I'm already up to here with them, just tearing the place apart. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
How do they get the whole week off? I think mine has 2 days.
They got the whole week. They're off Monday through Friday this week out here on Long Island, and that's why at the end of the week I got to take them to the water park, to the Wolf Lodge on Thursday and Friday, just to get them out of the house for a couple of days. It's just It's quite the scene over here. But yes, out of the gates, Finland getting smashed by Canada. 4-0 as they're in the second intermission right now. 2 goals very early. McDavid got them started again. McKinnon scored the second. He got the fourth as well in the second period. Point is chipped in. And we are now, we're going to get it, a rematch on Thursday night of that incredible game on Saturday night between the United States and Canada. This is the first time me and you have gotten to talk about that since it happened. And, man, it was quite the scene, and now it looks like we're going to get a round 2.
Well, I mean, I thought it was incredible. The 3 fights at the beginning of the game, both Kachuk brothers got in brawls. Within 9 seconds, they were dropping gloves. Within a minute, they had all 3 fights. And then it was a great game. Canada scored first. And then Gensel tied it. Gensel eventually had the winner, and they added the empty netter. He put it in. So he had 2 on the night, and the USA wins the game 3-1. In Montreal, where, as you saw for yourself, the entire time they were there, they got booed. They booed the anthem. They booed after they asked them not to boo the anthem. They kept booing. Then they got their ass beat. And then they came to Boston today, and they asked them not to boo, and they didn't. I can't even believe that they didn't boo the Canadians today in Boston. Well, I think I know why, because there's no Americans at the game. There's no Americans at the game. The entire place is filled with Canadians cheering for Canada, and they're going to win, and they're going to play again Thursday. And we'll see if the same thing happens Thursday night. I can't imagine that it will after the abuse that they took and the players who didn't like it at all in Montreal with the treatment that they got in Canada. And, you know, where I come from, you get it back served ice cold. Apparently, because I don't think any Americans were at that game today. So I haven't seen it yet. So I'm hoping that Thursday they get some of their own spaghetti, nice and cold, served up to them, because I thought it got a little stale with the constant booing as they were losing. You lost, and it is what it is. I'll tell you one thing, though. I still feel it's hard to beat that team twice. So I don't think the USA is in any kind of a bragging rights situation. They beat them there. Doesn't mean they're going to beat them here. I think they got their hands full Thursday night. You saw today how good they are. They can score in droves and quickly, and they can win a game and ice a game. Like Edzo said, they score again, it's over. That was when it was 2-0, and then it was 3-0. He didn't say it again because he knew he was going to ruin their telecast, because I tweeted, the game's boring. It's an awful game. It's total domination. Finland didn't show up for the biggest game for their country in years. They didn't show. So they got their ass beat, and the game was terrible. Don't even try to sell me that was a good game, you or anybody else. Morency, nobody. I don't want to hear it. The game sucked. I was picking my teeth. I literally started flossing my teeth in the middle of the second period.
No, the game's, listen, Canada's a lot better, and we saw the United States open up in one period against Finland and beat them. So Finland stayed alive because they beat Sweden on Saturday. Now they're getting smacked up. What really hurts is that now tonight's game is completely useless. This USA-Sweden game has no juice whatsoever for it, because we now know the matchup. We know that it's going to be United States and Canada. And look, I think you're right about, and we're going to have a couple days to talk about this, it's going to be tough to beat them twice. Remember, that game was a razor-thin game. You know, that's a 2-1 game with a late empty netter off of, I thought, Binnington giving up a real bad goal, the second goal against them.
The Larkin goal.
The Larkin goal, excuse me. You're right. The Larkin goal was the bad one. Binnington's got to stop that with the goal that made it 2-1. It's going to be that same type of game. I don't think you're going to get the 3 fights in the first 10 seconds of the game like you got Saturday, but you're going to get the same intensity and the same style of game that you got on Saturday night between two awesome teams with great rosters.
I thought Larkin's snapper was nice. It was a short side, and I thought it was a great shot, and he got him underneath the glove. And, then they held on and stuffed one in empty with Gensel on the left wing. So you and I talked about Gensel. He was one of our guys that could score a goal, and he had 2 of them. So they can obviously – look, I honestly believe what I saw is that the USA is a more physical team than Canada. And I think Canada, for my money, is a more gifted, speedy team. Speed kills. Like, I think the Penguins, when they won back-to-back twice, they did it with speed and talent. They had Crosby and Malkin in their peak prime, and guys like Hagelin flying up the ice, bringing the biscuit up. They were so fast the way they moved the puck, and they got goals so quickly. And they had Gensel, they had Russ, they had all these guys scoring goals. And, that's what Canada reminds me of. A lot of speed and tape-to-tape passing and shots, real quick snapshots, off-tape passes. And I just think that they're very dangerous. Like, I respect their team for sure. I don't respect their fans.
No, do not do that at all. All right, so we've got a lot of that to do today. We'll talk about whatever the NBA was that they did this weekend. It didn't work for them at all. We'll get into plenty of that. Lots of college rack from the weekend, including Auburn beating Alabama. I got this TGL going. Atlanta came back and won for me. I had them here in this first game. We got another TGL match at 4 o'clock, and this just came in too. Bengals are going to franchise tag T. Higgins for the second year in a row. He's going to be thrilled about that. Your boy T. Higgins, he's going to be very grumpy when he gets that news.
So I'm sure he already has the news, and he has no choice. He's staying in Cincinnati. They don't want to pay him. They just don't want to lose him.
at some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
You can catch Sports Rage weeknights at 10 East on our TV and radio outlets with Gabe Morency. We get him every day on C2C from Vancouver, thank God. I don't know if you heard me earlier. I said I think it's going to be hard for U.S. to beat Canada twice. I think they're extremely skilled and speedy, and I think the U.S. has, certainly depth and physicality, in my mind, an edge there. But they beat them in a great game. I thought Saturday was a great event. I thought it was a great game. It was intense. It was fantastic. But there's something wrong with this tournament, honestly, that it's already been determined who's playing. I think you're right. You just said something to me that made a lot of sense. What was that?
That is, and I understand people bought tickets already for, like, U.S. fans bought tickets for tonight, but it is a holiday nevertheless. They should have reversed the games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if Sweden and the USA would have played first today, Sweden still would have tried to win because they didn't know the outcome of this game. They basically rendered tonight's game meaningless, long story short. And all they had to do was flip the games. And then suddenly the game wouldn't have been meaningless because Sweden doesn't know what's going to happen in this game. Now they do. Now Sweden are like, we don't have a hope in hell. And the U.S. has already booked their ticket. Tonight's game means nothing. All you had to do was flip it. Now, it's easy to say, too, maybe play them at the same times or like, hour, right after each other in different cities. Like you said, it is what it is. It's the format. There's only 4 teams, Scott, so there's only so much they could really do. I think that's where they dropped the ball here. Like, how the hell the Czech Republic not here? All right, you want to – and at some point, guys, like, really? Are we going to keep Russia out of every international tournament for the rest of history? Are we really going to start getting into which countries are at war and what they do politically?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess so, right? So you don't say, but, like, there's a ton of Czechs in the NHL. Like, how the hell are the Czechs not here? Germany, Leon Draisaitl. Germans are good at hockey now. Like, how are they? Like, in 2028, they're going to have a World Cup, and they announced already. Like, so it won't be this. It won't be the 4 nations. And, like, next year it's the Olympics. Then in 2028, they're going to be in the Olympics all the time from here on out for the next 3 Olympics, I think they agreed to. But every other second year, Scott, they're going to have a World Cup now instead of the 4 nations. And it'll be 8 countries. Than this.
It'll be
8 countries.
What did you think of the game Saturday?
Oh, it was epic. I think that was the best moment in hockey in modern history, Scott. I think to me, I think that was the biggest moment in U.S. hockey since Wayne Gretzky was traded to the Kings. And going back, games like Saturday night, bro, are going to inspire generations of kids like the Miracle on Ice team did, right? Going into hostile territory, getting booed and beating Canada. You see the numbers on ABC. Remember we spoke last week, Scott, you asked me, what do I think the numbers would be for the Sweden-Canada game in the U.S.? I said, probably not great. Like, I wasn't expecting great numbers. Dude, it was on TNT, and I got like 1.4 million people watching, right? USA, the numbers have been great. And on Saturday night, guys, it was on ABC. Nearly 5 million people, guys. 4.7 million people. That's like big numbers. That's like World Series numbers, Scott. That's like smoke the NBA numbers type, like massive sporting event. You get 5 million people in today's day and age, man. That's big time. And they got it. All right. It's too bad. I don't know. People say, oh, now on Thursday, how big it's going to be. I think you caught lightning in a bottle on Saturday night. You know what I mean? There's not going to be 3 fights in the first 9 seconds on Thursday because it's a championship game. You're never going to see what you saw the other night. Like in the Olympics, they're not going to fight. You'll get kicked out. It's the Olympics. You can't have hockey brawls in the Olympics. Like you literally, they'll pull you aside. You're out of the games.
I like hockey fights. I'm with Don Cherry on that one. What did he say? Something about, I thought you sweethearts didn't want fighting in hockey. But I thought the 3 fights set the tone for the night.
Oh, it was awesome. And how about Tkachuk, too? He's one of those guys, he's hard to like, but if he's on your team, you know what I mean? You want him on your team, both of them, right? Just like his father, Keith, but Matthew's better than Keith. Like, he's more well-rounded. Think of the run, Scott. Like, Matthew Tkachuk went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost, made it back to the Stanley Cup Finals and won, and they won because of him. Let's be real. Like, I know Barkov's great and stuff. Like, Matthew Tkachuk is a great hockey. Like, he's really,
right.
To me, this is like the Tkachuk sort of show here, where he's showing people he's one of the best players in the world, just point blank. And if you pull this off, if you win the Stanley Cup and the 4 Nations in back-to-back years, that's a pretty nice little run that he's put together here. But you said it, Scott, and I don't know if you know Gary Lawless at all, if you ever had him on or you crossed paths over the years.
I know him.
Yeah, big bald guy. Used to cover the Winnipeg Jets, but he moved to Vegas. He's been covering the Vegas Golden Knights for years now. And he tweeted something, Scott, before the game on Saturday, and I reposted it. And I said, remember this, everybody. And Gary Lawless was at the game on Saturday, and he said, just spoke to a really smart hockey person who told me whoever wins tonight will lose on Thursday. That's what someone in hockey told. And he said, no way, these teams aren't beating each other 2 times in a row. So it sort of sucked to like that gut punch, and it was a gut punch to lose to the U.S. on Saturday. It was for Team Canada, but, bro, look at them now. This is the best they've played. Cooper said yesterday during breakfast that he was almost scared how intense they were. He goes, they'll be fine. He goes, there was a quiet confidence yesterday during the breakfast, and he goes, they're ready to go. Like sometimes losing, Scott, you know it. It's a wake-up call some teams need. Yeah. They were woken up. They're ready to go. And if I was the U.S., I wouldn't be too happy to have to play Canada again on Thursday, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is they can't be peas about it either. They have to play him. It is what it is. And I also, I know who Gary is. I respect him. But I also don't need him or you and I and Carver High Mafia. We're all hockey fanatics. We don't need anyone to tell us that. Like, I came on the air today. The first thing I said was, it's hard to beat that team twice in a row. I think they're going to have their hands full Thursday night. I don't need anyone to hold my hand when I watch hockey. And I know that they're in trouble because of that talent, that speed. Any team with McDavid, McCrimmon, whatever his name is, McKinnon, and Crosby on it, and that power play and everything about that team is loaded with talent. So's the U.S.
Cale
I think
McCarr.
It's hard to win. It's hard to win twice.
Cale McCarr did not play on Saturday, and no excuses. It is what it is. But they already lost.
He's back now. He's back.
They already
now,
lost.
So.
They already lost Theodore, though. They were without 2 of their top 6 defensemen on Saturday. McCarr's back.
At some point, these 80s are to learn, we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
So I saw something I've never seen before on Saturday night. I went to this 5-star Italian restaurant in New York City, right? And 2 things I never thought I'd see. One, they had the hockey game on TV in this restaurant, and I was like, whoa. Then I just never thought I'd see that in a fancy restaurant, a hockey game on the TV up in like 3 of them. And then secondly, I was like sitting at my table, and I was talking to him 34-7. I can't believe the hockey game. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I went, what is that? Is that the Grateful Dead? And the guy had the Grateful Dead playing on in the restaurant, in the speaker system, I was like, what is happening here? I look over and the owner's some old man in his like late 60s, something like that. And I said, come here. And I said, is that the Grateful Dead playing? He goes, yeah. He said, I'm a big Deadhead. And then I went, and you got the hockey game on? Guy goes, I love hockey. And I went, I love this place. This is the greatest restaurant ever. And he
Great
said,
combo.
I've seen the Dead 50 times. I was like, I've gone 14 times. I said, I went to see him at Sphere with my son. He goes, John Mayer was great, wasn't he? This guy's talking about the Grateful Dead 5-star Italian restaurant. Like, you can't even get a table at this place. And I go in and they're playing the Dead and they got the hockey game.
You won't have to wait anymore. You got a new buddy.
Honestly, this is my new favorite restaurant, Morency.
Well, listen, if you're going to get 5 million, if ABC got nearly 5 million people, someone had to be on somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So, people
when do you
watching
ever see hockey on in a restaurant in New York? Maybe in Toronto, but not in New York.
I think, though, you know what? I'm surprised it's doing as well as it is. Like, I'm not going to deny it. Like, I never thought they'd get nearly 5 million people watching the game the other night. So the numbers are great, but ESPN deserves credit. They've promoted this pretty hard. Like, during the Super Bowl coverage a lot, it was like, and don't forget after, we have the 4 Nations coming up. So the networks did promote it, and people are watching it. Like I said, you sort of call it lightning in a bottle. There's a lot of, patriotism in the air now. And, you just sort of, like I said, it won't be like this in the future. That was just sort of a wild and special night. Like you said earlier, there was a spattering of boos today, Scott, during the Canadian national anthem. But, like you said,
Yeah, I didn't hear
all the drunk dudes. Oh, they were there. Like they were there. People, there's videos of and stuff, but it wasn't over the top. But like you said, all the drunk American dudes aren't at the game. They will be on Thursday.
Yeah,
like, they weren't there right now. It's a bunch of Finnish people and it's all Canadians in the arena right now for the most part. It's basically like you know what I mean. Like they said, it's all Canadians. Right, a lot of people from the Maritimes of Canada have gone to this game in Boston and bought tickets. For the record, the ticket price, Scott, on Thursday night, incredibly high. I never would have imagined. You know how much it is? The cheapest ticket to get in right now is $1,200.
Yeah, I heard that. That's crazy. Was there anything that topped it for you? Like, was Auburn, Alabama? Because I watched that game. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good game, but it wasn't better than that hockey game. That NBA All-Star weekend wasn't better than that hockey game, not even close.
The NBA All-Star, when they actually played, Scott, it wasn't bad.
But they never played.
They never played. And I swear to God, and I had a few drinks on Saturday night, so during the hockey game. Yeah, exactly. So I was sort of just, in space out mode. And I bet on the games and stuff. And I'm like, why is Charles Barkley on the court right now with a fishing rod? Like, I was like, aren't we in the middle of the game? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what? And it went on and on. And I love after Trae Young, basically, they said, so what did you think of the All-Star game? He goes, it was great when we actually played. He goes, I don't know what the hell that was. And he talked about, he goes, I don't know why they did that then. And Jason Tatum, and there's no secret, Tatum, has been picked on by those guys. And Tatum's not a fan. I caught Tatum sitting on the bench by himself during that thing, just looking angry. He's probably, bro, does Kenny, Chuck and Shaq have to be part of everything that we do, Scott?
It's really ridiculous.
It's over the top now. Let's appreciate them. Get out of the way. I want to watch the All-Stars play.
It's not like they're going away. Good. They're not going anywhere. They act like they're dying.
Yeah, I know. They're not. They're still on TV every day. They're on more than ever.
Shaq just cut a new deal. They're not going anywhere. They're just changing networks. It's so ridiculous.
It's too much. It's too much.
Honestly, the Kevin Hart. I thought they were filming a documentary, a stand-up show. How long was it going to go on with his jokes? Oh,
and it wasn't funny. It was just all awkward, and the players were just sitting there. It was just awkward.
It sucked so bad it wasn't even funny at all.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
right, let's talk about that said NBA All-Star weekend and games, if you will, that went down last night. There were 3 of them. And I got to tell you, when I turned it on, I just thought the introductions were so cheesy. And then the game, like, I tweeted something out, like Brian Anderson said something about, is anybody going to play any defense? And I'm like, no, they don't play defense. It's a joke. And it's just, I don't even know what it is. Like, it's no different to me than the All-Star game. They don't try. No one plays D. It's just a, I don't know, free-for-all of, lobs and dunks and 50-foot shots, half-court shots. It's like a circus. It's not basketball. It isn't. And I got to tell you, honestly, Morency's right. Like the Ernie and Chuck and Shaq and Kenny stuff has just gotten so stale. Like, honest to Christ, like, what is happening? What is happening to basketball? Like, even Draymond Green, who I can't stand, he said the NBA is boring. And then Oscar Roberts, or Big O, he said, that's because that guy only passes to Curry for a living, doesn't do anything else. Look, he's right. I mean, let's just be honest. You don't watch NBA games. You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. They're going all over the world. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Well, I'm going to get to Draymond in a moment because, honestly, TNT got their money's worth out of him last night because he had the 3 or 4 most newsworthy things that were said during that All-Star game was him running his mouth on that panel outside. And everybody makes a big deal about those guys, and we know they're good, Shaq and Kenny and Barkley. They're not going anywhere. Like,
I know.
They're putting the show on ESPN next year.
That's
like,
it.
It's not like this is the end. I know it's the end of the NBA being on TNT, but that show is staying. It's not going anywhere. Like, could we calm down? The most bizarre thing to me was, and I did not watch it, obviously, but I saw because this is what we do nowadays, I saw all the clips on social media after it was over. So that was a good way for me to catch up with how brutal it was. And, like, what was Kevin Hart? Like, why they have Kevin Hart running around the whole thing, like, talking the whole time? You sent me a breakdown. I actually found an even more detailed breakdown. The first game was 12 minutes of actual time. The Kenny versus Chuck game. The second game was 16 minutes of actual time. And the third game was 14 minutes of actual time. So 32 minutes, or around 40, between 35 and 40 minutes of actual basketball, and the rest of the 2.5 hours was nonsense. There was just nothing. It was no basketball being played.
Let me tell you something. Let's look at it from this standpoint, from my angle. So I'm not watching that garbage. I watched a couple minutes of it, and I was like, I tweeted out, I'm like, this is awful. This is just awful. I don't know what this is. But I went to a high school basketball semifinals, as big of powerhouse schools that you can name in the country, playing in these 2 games, these 4 teams. I went to that yesterday afternoon in a driving rainstorm. I mean, it was coming down in buckets. I mean, people that got into this arena were soaking wet. I mean, just head to toe, soaking wet. But it didn't stop anyone. The place was sold out because no one here is a pea in New York City. They go right out in it. Snow, rain, ice, sleet. It was so much better than that NBA weekend, the whole weekend, not Sunday night, the entire weekend of their nonsense. I saw in 4 hours, I saw 10 times better high school basketball. Then I'll top it with this. college basketball, despite the fact that they pay players now in college football and basketball, college basketball is so much more exciting than the NBA. It's not even funny. And you could say it's the cheerleaders, the crowd, the student body, whatever it is, the band playing, the drums, the whole deal. People doing flips on the court in the middle of the game, the cheerleaders, whatever it is, college basketball roasts the NBA. It just roasts it. It kills it. All the best games are in college. And I went to better high school games on Sunday afternoon than I've ever seen an NBA game all season. I haven't seen one game better than the games I went to on Sunday, and they were high school games. That is embarrassing. And I'm telling the truth. Flat out, I watch better basketball in high school and college than I ever do anymore in the NBA. I think the NBA has become an abortion.
Look, it was bad, everything that they had going on. It was a tough weekend all around, especially when you have players even after. I do have that Trae Young.
They all said it sucked.
They all said it was
I bet they're in trouble now with Adam, the policeman, whatever. Tell it like it is. It sucked.
It was bad. I don't see how it was any better. When you have only 30 minutes of actual game time over 3 games being played, and you're not, what is that doing? Nobody's even watching any of the guys that they want to see in the game, let alone anything else. Just too much nonsense that they have in it. All right, Curry won the MVP. I mean, the game was in Golden State, about as fixed as you can get with Curry winning the MVP. I'm sure you saw him hit his big logo 3. Let's at least listen to him talk about winning the MVP. And apparently he had a lot to do with this dopey format. I guess Silver asked Curry, so all the guys can look at him afterwards. He's the one who did it all.
The hosting experience was unbelievable. I'm not going to complain about being tired or exhausted. This is an honor and a blessing to be able to celebrate and share this beautiful Bay Area that's been a part of my life for the last 16 years, and the basketball history and culture that's here, and the amazing fans that are here, and the impact that the game being here has had on both cities. So
they bought tickets to a Kevin
Hart
concert
from start to finish. And I mean, the highlight is obviously the game. That's what everybody's looking forward to.
Was Kevin Hart.
There was no highlight.
Brought a lot of my people together that have helped me along the way or been a part of the journey, and I got to kind of reflect a little bit. And I'm excited to get back to work next week. I'll definitely get away and take a little catch up on some sleep, but everything kind of went exactly as it should, and
no, it didn't. No,
10 out of 10 experience for sure hosting the
10
game.
out of 10. 10 out of 10, maybe
Whatever.
For him.
I'll give him this. I will give him this. San Francisco is a great city. I mean, I live there, and I lived there for 1 year in my life, and I loved it. It is a fantastic place, and it is very cool. It is a hip city. I loved it. I think it's kick-ass, but I don't care about anything else that he said about basketball because there was no basketball. And I got to tell you, that the whole thing, the celebrity fail, the skills fail. They had guys cheating in it. And then how about the dunk contest? Again, the same guy wins against some G leaguer no one's ever heard of. Honest to God, the whole thing, you can have it. You can have it. I don't care that he won the MVP. It was terrible. The basketball was bad. It's not basketball when no one plays hard and no one plays defense. Shut up. It's not basketball.
I will play you that Trae Young clip after you talk to Sean, and I'll give you a couple other things. We'll talk about all the headlines that Draymond made as a broadcaster on TNT last night. He had a few of them.
Slow play, drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom, definitely is more deliberate in his conversations. Always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Always love having Sean Pendergast on from 6:10 a.m. in Houston. He does mornings. He owns the market. And I just thought I'd mention real quick, Canada was up 4-0. And now with a minute left, they've scored 2 goals in 23 seconds. It's 4-3. And there's a minute left. And they've been playing with the extra attacker with the goalie off the ice. And they scored twice. But Canada just scored. There's the empty netter. That's it. Game over. Good night, Irene. Sean, good to see you. I want to start with this. The Rockets at the end of the break went out kind of farting. They were 3-7 in their last 10. But honestly, I love Udoka. I don't care what he did in Boston. I'm past all that nonsense. I don't care who he wants to sleep with. He's a great coach. I love that team. I think they got great young players. I love Şengün. I like Green. There's so much Thompson. There's so much to like about them. I don't even care they went 3-7 going out. They're a tough team.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Scott. They went out tough at the like you said, 3-7 in their last 10. But if I were to try to take people kind of inside those 10 games, that was about as tough a stretch of basketball as I've seen a team have to play in terms of the makeup of the schedule. They had a 4-game road trip that included the Cavaliers, the Celtics, and the Grizzlies. They came home for a game against the Nets, then went right back out onto the road for another 4 games. There were multiple back-to-backs built in there, too. They had some injury issues. Şengün was out. Şengün's got a back issue. Kind of looks better. He played in the All-Star game last night. But they've been dealing with some minor injuries here and there. I still look at the Rockets as a product of the aggregate of the season and not just kind of how they sputtered into the All-Star break. This is a team that has really embraced Ime Udoka's desire for them to play defense. Guys that formerly didn't really play a whole lot of defense, play defense now, guys like Şengün and Jalen Green. And Amen Thompson's been the best player on this team. People got a little glimpse of him in the Futures game if you watch that this weekend. He's been excellent, the 4th overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago. He's really, really good. It's a good young team, and I'm glad they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, to be honest with you, because they've got a ton of young players. They still have a ton of draft capital, and they're positioned perfectly to make a big move if they want to. But I think Udoka, I think the owners, the Fertittas, and Rafael Stone, the GM, want to see what this team looks like in a postseason first before they figure out exactly what it is they may need to go get.
So has there been talk in Houston of KD in the offseason in a deal to get him onto this team as that, they don't really have that guy, that veteran presence that's as good as that guy is.
No, yeah, absolutely. There's been talk of KD here. The last odds board that came out on KD as to where he'd play next after Phoenix, the number one team on that at the top of that list was Houston. And KD's got a little bit of experience with Ime Udoka. They were in the same building together in Brooklyn when Udoka was an assistant there. And I think among all those guys that you could look at, Jimmy Butler was on the board for them for a while. I think everybody here in Houston kind of soured on him, just seeing the way he left Miami. He's on Golden State now, so that doesn't really matter. There's other guys they could potentially go after. KD is obviously he's one of the greatest scorers of all time, but I think his style of play, you could still bring him in here and it doesn't completely disrupt the chemistry or the advancement, the growth of whichever young players are still left over after that. Like, I think KD is a guy, for a guy who scores 30 a game, he is definitely a guy who can blend in and play with others, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like, I think if he came there, he'd automatically drop 25 a game. I think that there's so much other talent there that it would bring him back a step or two in terms of the 30 a night. But I'd love to see it. When they come out Friday night, they start up. They got the T-Wolves at home. Then they go to Salt Lake. Then they're back home for the Bucks and the Spurs. And that's Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are big games, tough games, except the Jazz game, I think, is easy work for them at the Delta.
Yeah, but yet it's for this Rockets team, it's been the easy games have been a problem at times where they really kind of got on everybody's radar within the last few weeks. Scott, was when they swept Cleveland in a back-to-back in a home and home, and then they beat the Celtics. Granted, the Celtics were down a couple guys, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both played in that game. They've actually played very, very well against the good teams in the league this year. If you look at their record, at one point before this little stretch of the 3-7 you were pointing to, about midway through the season, if you took the teams that were all top 10, we'll call it top 10 teams in the league record-wise, their record against those teams was like 12-4. They played very well against the good teams. It's actually kind of a classic young team kind of thing. Like they beat those teams, but then they get beat by the Nets twice in 5 days. And one of them is just I'm sure you saw it, just an awful.
I did.
They gave up 2 threes in the last 9 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
They still do a lot of young team things. So I don't look at the schedule necessarily in terms of the opponents and get too worried or upset or excited one way or the other. To me, it's the flow of the schedule, the back-to-backs, the road trips, and things like that.
So let's talk about the Cougars. They're winning again. And ever since the Texas Tech stunner at the Fertitta, where they lost in overtime by 1 a few Saturdays ago, I think it was the Saturday before the Super Bowl week. It was the first.
Yeah.
And then they beat Oklahoma State. They beat Colorado in Boulder. They beat Baylor by 11 at the Fertitta. And then they went to the McHale Center on Saturday and they won again. I have said on this show a number of times that the two best teams defensively in the country are Houston and Duke. And they both, to me, mean business. Final Four business.
Yeah, and you can say that about Houston every year under Kelvin Sampson. I mean, that's his ethos. I mean, that's the culture that he's built with that program. And he brings in a bunch of kids. He doesn't bring in the one and done type kids, man. Like, he brings in blue collar kids. He recruits the Houston area really, really well. This team actually shoots a little bit better than some of his previous teams. When the Cougs like last season when they got beat, Sweet 16, they couldn't put the ball in the basket. They've got some guys that can put the ball in the bucket this time around. Kelvin Sampson's outstanding. He's just quite simply one of the best coaches in America. And yeah, they're going to play defense all year long, but I think they've got enough offense now where maybe hopefully they don't have the hiccups that they've had the last few years in March.
I still am sick to my stomach that Indiana gave up on him because he burped. And they let him leave Bloomington. And if he was still in Bloomington, they'd be shutting teams down in the Big Ten and winning games. It makes me sick. Sean Pendergast, always good to see you, buddy. Take care. Thank you. Great stuff.
Slow play, drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scott when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I can't wait to hear this Trae Young. I know he said that it basically sucked. I saw his comments, but I haven't actually heard it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, so this is in the post game afterwards. A few of the players were asked what they thought of the format, what they think of standing around so much with all the nonsense TNT was doing. Trae Young probably had the best description of the night.
No, I didn't like it at all, to be honest with you. I don't know what the fans' reaction is yet and things like that, but I think there's like too many breaks, you know what I'm saying? It's too long of breaks, and guys are over there ready to play and stuff like that. I thought it was very competitive at the beginning, but then as the games kept going on, I think it was just too long of breaks for sure.
You didn't enjoy that 17-minute break?
Yeah, that's how long it was too long of a break. I didn't know how long it was, but it felt like it was 30 minutes,
So let me tell you something here. So there's a couple of things. I play in one place, and we play a 10-minute clock, and you play to 10 or 10. So I play at this other place where they played just to 7, and they play as long as it takes. So I'm there the other day, and I'm like, this game has been going on for 30 minutes. I am dry. I played a game and lost, and I'm over on the sideline. I literally became dry. I was, soaking wet, then I was dry. I waited so long. I'm like, here's an idea for all you morons. Why don't we bring the clock into it and play a 10-minute game? First to 7 or 10 minutes. Game over. And then you can keep playing game. Guys waiting 30, 40 minutes to play a game. Who wants to play basketball anymore when you don't play for 40 minutes? So when I play in the morning, if you lose, you wait no more than 10 minutes and you're back on the court. No one wants to sit that plays basketball, let alone sit and wait. Like, it's one thing to be on the bench because you suck. It's another thing to just sit and wait for some comedian to crack jokes or honest to Christ, Fat Chuck and Fat Shaq. They're both fat asses now. Kenny's bull-legged, and Ernie, he doesn't play basketball. He's a television host. What is this fascination with these fat asses and old men? Nobody cares. I keep telling you on the show, nobody wants to watch fat old men do anything at all. It's one thing. My daughter will say to me, "You're fat. Stop eating junk food, you fat ass." That's what she says to me. And then I'm like, then I look in the mirror. I'm like, Oh, she's right. I really am a fat ass. No one wants to watch fat asses do anything. Watching Charles Barkley. Honest to Christ, like nobody else is sick and tired of this act? Am I the only person that finds it stale? You got to be kidding me, man. I want to be entertained. Are you not entertained? No, I'm not at all. It's not funny. It's not. It ruined the basketball. Jesus Christ, can I watch basketball when I tune in to watch basketball? What am I watching here? I thought I was watching Mary Tyler Moore. Honest to Christ. I'm not even wrong. I'm not even close to being wrong. I'm right. Again. Honestly.
Well, they
Can't
tried.
argue with me.
We know what their future is in terms of the youth. They want to have Draymond Green be a big part of their broadcasting future, although he said a lot of things last night. Let me give you some of his handiwork on the TNT studio set. First, he called NBA games boring and that they have no substance. Well, he's right about that. Regular season games, I believe, is where he was referencing. He said that he's been offered to coach the Warriors, be the head coach of the Warriors after he retires. We'll see how that goes for him. He said the new All-Star game format was awful. He's right about that. He seemed to be specifically upset that they allowed the Rising Stars players to play in the game on Sunday night. He was very annoyed at that. He said that if the NBA went to a one-on-one tournament, that he would win it in All-Star Weekend. Lots of stuff from Draymond.
Okay, first of all, he's right about the Rising Stars. He said, the first year you're in this league and second year and you're playing in the Sunday All-Star game shouldn't even be legal. It shouldn't even be allowed. You have to earn that right to play in that Sunday night game. Secondly, he would have no chance at all, zero. In fact, if there were 50 players in the one-on-one, he would finish 50th. He has no game. He has no offensive game. One-on-one basketball is about ripping someone's nuts. And the only guy that can do that in the NBA, unequivocally, the best player is Kyrie Irving. No one can guard him. He will roast anyone, including 6'8", 260 LeBron James. Everyone thinks LeBron would win. He can't guard him either. Allen Iverson. Michael Jordan couldn't guard Iverson. Iverson would have won it himself, drunk.
Slow play, drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.